Before the sun asserts its authority, the African savannah exists as a world of texture and suggestion. It is a landscape defined not by sharp lines, but by a symphony of sensory information that travels on the cool morning air, a complex code awaiting decryption. The first breath of dawn carries a complex perfume, layered with meaning for those who can interpret it. There is the dry, papery scent of last season's red oats grass, a foundational note of the plains that speaks of heat and sustenance. Beneath it lies the rich, loamy smell of damp soil, a fleeting promise of the life-giving moisture that has settled overnight, a scent that will be baked into oblivion by noon. This terrestrial fragrance is punctuated by the sharp, almost medicinal aroma of wild sage, crushed underfoot by the unseen movements of the night, its oils released as a ghostly signature of a passing animal. This is not a passive backdrop, it is a living network of information, a broadcast on a frequency only the wild can tune into. The direction and intensity of the breeze carry vital intelligence, a constant stream of updates on the state of the world. For an elephant matriarch, the air can hold the scent of a water source up to 19 kilometers away, a whisper of hope in the dry season. For a nervous herd of impala, a sudden shift in the wind can bring the first faint trace of a predator, a musky, unsettling odor of carnivore that triggers an immediate electric unease, heads snapping up in unison. That single terrifying molecule is the difference between life and death. Sound, too, travels with a piercing, almost physical clarity in the pre-dawn stillness. The silence is a canvas, a profound and heavy quiet that has a texture of its own. Upon it, the first calls are painted with startling vibrancy. The sudden, warbling cry of a black-backed jackal slices through the quiet, a declaration of presence that ripples across the landscape, answered by a distant cousin. It is a sound of opportunism, of scavenging, of a life lived in the margins of the great hunters. Soon it is joined by the growing, intricate chorus of birds, the liquid notes of a bulbul, the sharp chatter of starlings, a cascade of sound that signals the inexorable transition from the dominion of night to the reign of day. Visually, the world is one of soft focus and subtle, momentous shifts. The immense sand dunes, which stood as cold purple masses in the final moments of darkness, begin to blush as the first indirect rays of light kiss their highest peaks. They transform from monolithic voids into glowing orange behemoths against a sky paling from indigo to the softest grey. Across the plains, the scattered acacia and baobab trees emerge as stark, skeletal silhouettes, their ancient forms etched against the growing light. This is the world the cheetah is born into, a vast, open theatre where survival depends not only on what can be seen, but on the constant, meticulous interpretation of every scent, every sound, every subtle change in the invisible environment. For the cheetah, a creature that relies so profoundly on the explosive power of sight, this broader sensory context is the true foundation of its existence. The information carried on the wind dictates its movements, revealing not only where prey might be found, but more critically, where its powerful competitors are not. Its life is a continuous high-stakes process of reading these invisible signals, navigating a world of unseen dangers and fleeting opportunities, a world where a single miscalculation means starvation or annihilation. Hidden within a dense, almost impenetrable thicket of tall grass and thorny branches, life stirs. The air here is different, close, warm, and filled with the milky scent of new life. Here, a solitary female cheetah, whose name in this silent language is a pattern of spots on her flank and a lifetime of memory, tends to her litter. The 5 cubs, born blind and weighing less than 400 grams each, are utterly dependent, their world a tangled, fragrant darkness. For the first 6 to 8 weeks of their lives, this secluded lair, a shallow depression scraped into the earth, is their entire universe, a fragile fortress against a savannah teeming with threats. The mother's bond with her young is forged in a language of quiet intimacy, a stark contrast to the thunderous declarations of the savannah's other great predators. She communicates not with roars that shake the very ground, but with a gentle resonant purr, a unique vocalization that rumbles continuously through both inhalation and exhalation. It is a constant physical reassurance of her presence, a sonic blanket of security for the helpless cubs nestled against her belly. When she must call them from their hiding place for a hurried relocation, she uses a soft, bird-like chirp. This high-pitched, unassuming sound is a marvel of evolutionary subtlety, a secret code passed between mother and child. For an animal of her size and power, the call is unusually high, almost insignificant, leading to the hypothesis that it serves as a form of acoustic camouflage. By mimicking the innocuous sounds of the savannah's abundant bird life, she can communicate with her cubs without broadcasting their vulnerable location to the keen, intelligent ears of lions and spotted hyenas, for whom a den of helpless cheetah cubs is an effortless, irresistible meal. This vocal strategy is a direct reflection of the cheetah's precarious position in the ecological hierarchy. While a lion's roar is a broadcast of dominance, a tool for defining territory and maintaining pride cohesion over vast distances, the cheetah's entire vocal repertoire is designed for affiliation and, above all, concealment. Its most critical communication is conducted in whispers, a necessary and profound adaptation for a life lived in the shadows of more formidable hunters. The cubs themselves are cloaked in a remarkable form of defense, a visual lie to the world. For the first few months of their lives, they possess a thick, silvery grey mantle of long, unruly hair that runs from the crown of their head all the way down their backs. This mantle serves a dual purpose. It provides crucial warmth against the chill of the night, but more importantly, it is a clever and audacious piece of mimicry. From a distance, or in the dappled light of the bush, the mantle makes a small, vulnerable cub resemble a honey badger, a creature renowned for its ferocious, almost suicidal aggression. Most predators, even lions, have learned through painful experience that harassing a honey badger is a costly mistake, and they are wise to give it a wide berth. This ingenious disguise offers a crucial, if not foolproof, layer of protection during their most helpless stage.
What if the most brilliant lie on the savannah isn't told with a sound but with a hairstyle? That mantle is an evolutionary masterstroke. In a world of giants, the cub's only defense is to pretend to be the one thing everyone is afraid of. It's a high-stakes bluff, an audacious gamble that a predator will see the ghost of a honey badger and decide to look for an easier meal.
The mother's life has become a relentless cycle of nurturing and vigilance. She grooms them patiently, her rough tongue stimulating their circulation, her purrs a source of constant comfort. But a knot of instinct, a gnawing hunger in her own belly, tightens with every passing hour. The cubs need milk, and she needs the strength to produce it. She must hunt. The thought of leaving them alone fills every moment with a primal dread. She's lost a litter before, a memory that is not a thought but a physical ache in her bones. The savannah does not forgive. She nuzzles them one last time, inhaling their scent, then rises like a ghost, her every muscle coiled with purpose and anxiety. The cubs, sensing her departure, press together in a small, trembling pile. She slips out of the thicket without a sound, a tawny shadow melting into the tall grass, leaving the 5 fragile heartbeats alone in the vast, indifferent wilderness. The silence they are left in is no longer comforting. It is now a vessel for 1,000 potential threats. As the sun climbs towards its zenith, the savannah transforms into a furnace. The air shimmers with heat, and the vibrant greens and golds of the landscape are bleached into a pale, hazy, unforgiving wash. For the mother cheetah, this period of rest is not a choice, it is a desperate necessity. Having failed in an earlier unseen hunt just after dawn, she must now conserve every remaining calorie and find a way to allow her overheated body to cool. She is caught in an ecological vise. Historically, cheetahs were classified as strictly diurnal hunters. A temporal niche evolved to provide a crucial buffer from their primarily nocturnal competitors. But the sun is its own kind of predator. As ambient temperatures soar, she is forced into inactivity. Her body, already pushed to the brink of hypothermia by any chase, cannot handle the additional thermal load of the external environment. This forces her into a dangerous compromise. The midday sun effectively closes her preferred window of activity, pushing her hunting efforts into the cooler, crepuscular hours of dawn and dusk, and even into the moonlit night. This, in turn, forces her into greater temporal overlap with the very lions and hyenas she evolved to avoid. She is trapped. To avoid lions, she must hunt by day. To avoid the lethal sun, she must hunt by night. Her survival, and that of her cubs, depends on her ability to navigate the narrow, perilous twilight between these two powerful, indifferent forces. She finds refuge under the sparse shade of a shepherd's tree, its branches offering little comfort. She lies down, but she cannot rest. Her sides heave, not just from the heat, but from the gnawing reality of her failure. Her cubs are waiting. They've been alone for hours. Their own finite reserves of energy are dwindling. Back in the tangled thicket that serves as their den, a small silvery grey head pops up. He is the boldest of the litter, and the hunger in his belly is a new and powerful sensation. His mother's scent is long gone from the air. He hears the distant call of a francolin, and driven by a curiosity that overrides his instinct to stay hidden, he takes a clumsy, uncertain step out of the den and into the blinding light. The shade offered a brief respite, but she was not the only hunter who knew the value of a tree. While the mother cheetah seeks refuge from the sun in the sparse shade of the shepherd's tree, panting in the oppressive heat, a scent drifts down from above. It is the coppery tang of old blood, mixed with the musky, powerful odour of another predator. Her head snaps up. High above her, wedged expertly in the fork of a thick branch, is the desiccated carcass of an impala fawn, and lying along the branch next to it, almost invisible, is the leopard. It is a creature of the shadows, a master of stealth and ambush, whose entire existence is built around the art of remaining unseen. Its mottled coat of rosettes provides the perfect camouflage, allowing it to melt into the dappled light of the leafy canopy. The mother cheetah freezes, her exhaustion momentarily forgotten and replaced by a cold, immediate fear. The leopard's hunt is a study in patience, the antithesis of her own explosive strategy. Unlike her open plains pursuit, the leopard relies on cover, stalking its prey with painstaking slowness until it is within a few meters. Its final attack is not a prolonged chase, but a sudden explosive pounce, a lethal ambush that leverages surprise and raw power over her specialized speed. But the most significant difference between them is hanging right there in the tree. The leopard possesses immense physical strength, particularly in its neck and shoulders. This power, combined with its adept climbing skills, allows it to solve the problem of kleptoparasitism in a way she never could. It can hoist a carcass, sometimes heavier than its own body, high into the branches. This single ability fundamentally alters the leopard's relationship with the savannah. For the mother cheetah, a poor climber that might use a low-lying branch as a lookout but could never secure a meal in a tree, the savannah floor is a place of constant threat and competition. Her meal is a fleeting opportunity that must be consumed immediately before the hyenas and lions arrive. For the leopard, this tree is a fortress. It is a hunting blind from which to launch an ambush, a safe haven to rest in, and most importantly, a secure larder. By stashing its prize in the canopy, the leopard protects its food from the very hyenas who would steal her meal, allowing it to feed at its leisure over several days. The leopard opens one yellow eye and stares down at her, not with aggression, but with a look of bored ownership. It makes no move. It doesn't have to. The cheetah, weak and defeated, understands the silent message. This is not her space. She pushes herself to her feet, every muscle protesting, and silently melts back into the shimmering heat, leaving the master of the shadows to its fortified meal. He had been saved from the sky, but now began the harder lesson, how to survive a world that wanted him dead. The primal terror of the leopard encounter is immediately replaced by a more profound and urgent anxiety, her cubs. She trots now, ignoring the heat, ignoring the pain in her empty stomach. As she crests a small rise, she sees the thicket and a scene that makes her heart stop. A massive martial eagle, its wingspan nearly 2 meters, is circling low over the den site. And in the open, not 5 meters from the safety of the thicket, is her boldest cub, staring up in fascinated horror at the great bird. He is frozen, a perfect, helpless target. The eagle begins its dive. The cheetah does not think, she acts. She unleashes a burst of speed, not the calculated, controlled acceleration of a hunt, but a frantic, desperate sprint for her son's life. The eagle's talons are just meters from the cub when she arrives, a blur of tawny fur and maternal fury. She lets out a guttural, spitting snarl she rarely uses and leaps towards the bird. The eagle, surprised by the sudden onslaught, aborts its attack, its talons closing on empty air. With a powerful downbeat of its wings that kicks up a cloud of dust, it banks sharply and soars away, letting out an indignant shriek. The cub, terrified, scrambles back into the thicket to join his siblings. She follows him in, her body trembling with adrenaline and relief. The midday rest is no longer about conserving energy, it is about reinforcing the bonds and the lessons of survival. She grooms the bold cub meticulously with her rough tongue, an act that is both comforting and a gentle reprimand. For the cubs, this period of relative quiet is a critical classroom. Their lives are filled with play, but it is play with a deadly purpose. They stalk, chase and wrestle with their siblings, their energetic games honing the reflexes and motor skills they will one day need. Their mother is a patient and dedicated teacher, her methods sharpened by the bitter memory of a previous litter lost to a single careless moment. This entire apprenticeship, which will last for about 18 months, is set against a backdrop of constant, overwhelming peril. A cheetah cub's childhood is one of the most hazardous in the natural world. Mortality rates are staggeringly high. In some parts of the Serengeti, it is estimated that as few as 5% of cubs survive to adulthood. The list of threats is long and relentless. Lions, spotted hyenas, leopards, eagles, even large baboons. They can be trampled by migrating herds or succumb to disease. A mother's experience is the critical factor. She knows she must move them, and soon, the scent of 5 cubs, her own scent, the scene with the eagle, it is all a beacon for predators. Tonight, under the cover of darkness, they will move to a new lair, a nomadic existence that is both physically taxing and essential for their protection. She looks at her tiny, fragile offspring. The devastatingly high mortality rate is a brutal testament to the extreme pressure under which she lives. Success is not guaranteed. It is a desperate hope, measured one sunrise at a time.
You see a mother save her cub and you think it's a victory. But what if the real war is one she can't possibly win on her own? That staggering mortality rate, sometimes over 90%, isn't a failure on the mother's part. It's a sign of the immense predator pressure in a healthy ecosystem. Her entire strategy is a numbers game against impossible odds, which makes every single cub that reaches adulthood a statistical miracle.
The fading light brought a welcome coolness, but with it came the scent of new kings, and their laws were written in violence and strength. As the fierce heat of midday finally begins to wane and the sky bleeds into hues of orange and purple, the mother's hunger returns with a vengeance. She must try again. Leaving the cubs hidden in their new temporary den in a rocky crevice, she moves out into the second light of dusk. The world is active again, but there is a new scent on the wind, powerful and sharp. She stops at a prominent marker tree and reads the news. It is Cheetah, but not the scent of a lone male or a passing nomad. It is the overlapping scent of many males, fresh and pungent. Moving with a confident, coordinated grace across the plains ahead of her are 5 male cheetahs. These are not rivals, but brothers, a coalition that will likely remain together for life. This male social structure stands in stark contrast to her solitary existence, a profound dichotomy in the cheetah's way of life, a split in strategy driven by the different evolutionary pressures on each sex. An alliance of 5 males is exceptionally rare and grants them an unparalleled advantage. She watches from a great distance as they move, their bond visible in their easy proximity to one another. They patrol their boundaries relentlessly, refreshing the scent marks on trees and rocks, a clear signal of their residency to any intruders. While she's a nomad drifting across a vast home range to avoid conflict, their life is centered on this much smaller, fiercely defended territory. This massive coalition has claimed a vast area that overlaps with her own home range and those of several other females, maximizing their reproductive opportunities. Their cooperation provides significant advantages. Together, they are far more successful at acquiring and defending this territory than any lone male. They can also hunt larger and more formidable prey. As she watches, they begin to stalk a herd of wildebeest, singling out a full-grown bull, a target that would be suicidal for her to even consider. Within their brotherhood, their society appears notably egalitarian. Unlike the rigid hierarchies of lions or hyenas, there is no obvious leader. They move as one, a single entity with 5 bodies. This gender-based split in social strategy is unique among cats. She has evolved for ultimate solitude, a strategy that maximizes her chances of raising cubs by remaining as inconspicuous as possible. They, facing intense competition for mating opportunities, have evolved for ultimate cooperation, a strategy that maximizes their ability to secure and defend the territories that attract females. They are 2 sides of the same species with radically different solutions to the challenge of survival. But for her, right now, their presence is a new and complex variable. They are not an immediate threat to her, but their hunt will disturb every animal for kilometers. Their territorial patrols will make her own movements more complicated. They are a powerful, unpredictable force in a world already fraught with danger. She watches them begin their coordinated chase of the wildebeest, a stunning display of power and teamwork. Their presence has redrawn the map of her world, and as darkness finally falls, she is still hungry. And now she must navigate a kingdom ruled by 5 kings. The fading light brought with it the chattering calls of endurance hunters, a stark reminder that her own strategy of explosive power was not the only path to success. As the 5 male cheetahs began to feed on their massive prize, the scent of fresh blood and viscera unfurled across the savannah, a potent invitation that could not be ignored. The mother cheetah, watching from her distant hiding place, saw the first responders arrive. They flowed over a low ridge, a pack of painted phantoms in the twilight. African wild dogs. They are not sprinters, they are marathon runners, the embodiment of persistence hunting. Where her body was a machine of anaerobic fury, theirs were engines of aerobic efficiency, endurance athletes capable of maintaining speeds of nearly 60 kilometers per hour for 5 kilometers or more, relentlessly pursuing their prey until it collapsed from sheer exhaustion. This physiological specialization for stamina is inextricably linked to their highly cooperative social structure. The pack, a complex and cohesive unit led by a dominant alpha pair, functions as a single organism. They fanned out now, approaching the wildebeest kill from multiple angles, communicating with a series of wailing hoots and chirps as they flowed across the landscape. The mother watched, a knot of tension in her stomach. This was a contest between 2 pinnacles of cursorial or running predation. Her own solitary hunt was a high-risk, high-reward gamble on individual athleticism. The wild dog's pack hunt was a more robust and reliable system, where the lower power of any single individual was more than compensated for by the collective stamina and coordination of the group. The 5 brothers stopped feeding. They lifted their bloodied heads and faced the encroaching dogs, their bodies tensing. A low, rumbling growl, magnified by 5, echoed across the plain. The dogs, whose teamwork results in an astonishingly high success rate, were not easily intimidated, but they recognized the power imbalance. The cheetah coalition was a wall of muscle and fury, their size and strength far greater than any individual dog. After a tense standoff, a series of feigned charges from the brothers and a flurry of agitated calls, the dog pack yielded. They melted back into the dusk, their hunt for an easy meal thwarted. The mother cheetah exhaled slowly. The coalition had held their prize, reaffirming their newfound dominance, but the commotion was far from over, and a far deeper and more ancient sound was now rising to answer the chaos. The growls of the cheetahs and the calls of the dogs were but whispers beneath the sound that now rolled across the plains, an unambiguous declaration that the true king had arrived. As darkness finally blanketed the savannah, the sound rose to dominate and erase all others. It was a deep, resonant roar that seemed to vibrate in the mother's very bones, a sound that travelled for kilometres, not as a call for help or reunion, but as an unambiguous declaration of absolute power and presence. This was the voice of the lion, the apex predator, whose life is defined by a social structure and hunting strategy that afford it the luxury of unchallenged dominance. From the shadows they emerged, the core of the pride, a stable unit of 4 related lionesses, sisters and aunts, their muscles moving like liquid gold under the rising moon. Behind them, larger and darker, came the coalition of 2 massive black-maned males who held tenure over this territory. The 5 cheetah brothers, formidable only moments ago, were instantly dwarfed. Their aggressive confidence evaporated, replaced by the deep, instinctual fear that all lesser predators feel in the presence of the king. The lions are the most social of all cat species, and their social system is built on cooperation and overwhelming force. The lionesses, the pride's primary hunters, work with deadly efficiency, but the male's primary role is what the cheetahs now faced, the defense and ownership of their domain. Their sheer size and strength make them the undisputed rulers. The cheetah coalition had no choice. With flattened ears and low guttural spits of protest, they abandoned their prize. There was no fight, no contest. They scattered, their brief reign over the wildebeest carcass ending abruptly. The lion pride descended on the meal. There was none of the cheetah's nervous haste. They feasted together, their security in numbers eliminating any threat. A clear, if contentious, hierarchy governed the meal. The 2 males ate first, their deep growls a constant warning, followed by the lionesses. The mother cheetah watched the entire drama unfold. The most powerful coalition of cheetahs she had ever seen had been unceremoniously deposed. Their hard-won meal was gone, and now 5 large, hungry and frustrated male cheetahs were out there with her in the darkness, their own hunts ruined. The savannah had been reset to its natural order, and she was, as always, at the bottom of the hierarchy of power. The moon was now high and bright, a stark white disk in the black sky. Her cubs were weak with hunger. The night was full of lions, and now 5 angry kings of her own kind. But she could wait no longer. The predator she faced was of her own kind, but the light that suddenly blinded them both belonged to a danger that hunted all living things. The male cheetah took a step toward her, his posture aggressive. In this moment he was not a potential mate, but a rival and a threat. Infanticide among cheetahs is rare, but a frustrated, hungry male was an unpredictable danger. Her mind raced. If she ran, she would lead him away from the cubs, but she would be abandoning them to the night. If she challenged him, the noise could attract the very lions she had worked so hard to avoid. She flattened her ears and returned a low, guttural hiss, a sound of desperate warning. The male took another step, lowering his head. Suddenly, a brilliant, unnatural light sliced through the darkness, pinning them both in its beam. Both cheetahs froze, momentarily blinded, their retinas flaring with green fire. The light was followed by a low, rumbling noise that was not of the savannah, the sound of a diesel engine, a rickety truck, its headlights cutting a swath through the ancient landscape, was bouncing over the terrain, heading directly for them. Poachers. This was the specialist's ultimate plight, a threat against which evolution had provided no defense. The very traits that made the cheetah extraordinary, its speed, its beauty, were what made it a target. The illegal wildlife trade, which rips cubs from their mothers for the exotic pet market, was a spectre haunting these plains. The male cheetah, his aggression forgotten in the face of this greater terror, bolted into the darkness. The mother's instinct screamed for her to do the same, but her cubs were hidden in the rocks directly in the vehicle's path. The truck's spotlight swept the area, searching. She had only one choice. She broke from the shadows and ran, not away from the truck, but on a parallel course, deliberately drawing the blinding light onto herself. The engine revved as the poachers took the bait, believing she was their target. A desperate flight began. She was no longer hunting prey. She was the prey. The powerful headlights bounced wildly behind her, turning the landscape into a terrifying, high-contrast world of black and white. She ran, not with the focused grace of a hunt, but with the frantic energy of fear. Ahead, a line of darkness loomed, a fence, a product of the habitat loss and fragmentation that was carving up her world. It was a dead end, but she knew this land. She veered sharply, remembering a place where warthogs had dug a culvert beneath the wire. She slid through the opening, the rough wire scraping her back, and disappeared into the territory beyond. The truck screeched to a halt at the fence line, its lights sweeping the darkness in frustration before finally mercifully turning away. She collapsed, her body trembling, her lungs burning. She had saved her cubs, but the chase had driven her miles from the kopjes, deep into the marginal lands bordering human settlements. As the first pale hint of dawn touched the eastern sky, she rested, gathering her strength for the long, dangerous journey back to her children. The night had been a gauntlet of survival, a testament to her skill and resilience, but it was a hollow victory. She was exhausted, still desperately hungry, and her cubs were alone. Her personal struggle was a microcosm of her species' plight. The cheetah is a finely tuned instrument, but the world for which it was tuned is vanishing. Its story is a poignant reminder that the pinnacle of evolution can become a profound liability in a world of rapid change. As the sun rose, casting a fragile light on the plains, she stood up. She had to get back to her cubs, but a new foul scent was on the morning air, the smell of livestock and humans. She was no longer in her world. She was on the edge of theirs, and she knew with a certainty that chilled her to the bone that the most dangerous part of her journey had just begun. The world she now navigated was a fractured mosaic of the familiar and the dangerously alien. The scent of wild sage was tainted with the acrid smell of diesel fumes and the chemical sharpness of fertilizer. The silence was pierced not by the call of a jackal, but by the distant rhythmic barking of a domestic dog, a sound that carried a unique and immediate threat. Her instincts, honed for the subtle cues of the savannah, were overwhelmed by this barrage of unnatural sensory information. She moved with even greater caution, a phantom clinging to the shadows in a world that had too few of them. The open grasslands were replaced by fenced pastures, the straight, taut lines of wire an incomprehensible and absolute barrier. She followed a fence line for over a kilometre, trotting anxiously, searching for a way through. The fence was a scar on the land, a stark declaration of ownership that her mind could not process. It was simply an obstacle, a frustrating wall dividing her from the direction her internal compass screamed she must go. The smell of her cubs, a scent she could almost taste, was a magnetic pull from the east, but the wire forced her south, deeper into the human footprint. The fence hummed with a low thrum she could feel through the pads of her feet, a vibration that spoke of a power she did not understand. She finally found what she was looking for, a deep erosion gully, a place where the summer rains had washed out the earth beneath the lowest strand of wire. She flattened herself to the ground, her spine compressing, and scraped through the narrow opening, the metal barbs snagging at the fur on her back. She was now in a cattle pasture. The air was thick with the heavy bovine smell and the buzzing of flies. In the distance, a herd of Frisian cows, massive black and white beasts far larger than any wildebeest, grazed placidly. They were slow and witless, but their presence signaled the proximity of the most dangerous predator of all, man. She knew to give them a wide berth. A confrontation here would not end with a stolen meal, but with a gunshot. Her goal was invisibility. She used a dry riverbed as a concealed highway, its sandy bottom muffling her footsteps, its high banks hiding her from view. The riverbed led her to the final and most terrifying barrier, a road. It was a wide black ribbon of tar that cut through the landscape, smelling of hot asphalt and exhaust. She crouched in the tall grass at its edge, her heart pounding. Every few minutes, a monster would scream past, a fast-moving, bright-eyed beast that shook the very ground. The speed was something she could comprehend, but the noise and the rigid, unswerving path were terrifyingly unnatural. For nearly an hour she waited, a statue of terrified patience, as the sun climbed higher, baking the tar and sending shimmering waves of heat into the air. The traffic was a relentless stream. She saw no opening. The thought of her cubs, alone and vulnerable, gnawed at her. They would be hungry now, their chirps growing more insistent, more likely to attract attention. The desperation finally overrode her fear. She saw a brief gap between a large rumbling lorry and a smaller, faster car. It was her only chance. She burst from the cover of the grass, her body a low, flat projectile. She did not use her hunting speed. This was a controlled, frantic dash. For 3 terrifying seconds, she was completely exposed on the black surface. The roar of the approaching car filled her ears. A horn blared, a sound of synthetic fury that pierced her brain. She pushed harder, her claws scrabbling for purchase on the smooth, hot tar. She reached the other side just as the car whipped past, the wind from its passage buffeting her fur. She tumbled into the ditch on the far side, her body trembling with adrenaline. She did not rest. The close call had sharpened her urgency. She was back in wilder land now, the familiar scent of red oats grass a welcome comfort. The kopjes where she had left her children were visible now, a hazy blue silhouette against the horizon. She broke into a steady ground-eating trot, a pace she could maintain for hours. The hunger, the exhaustion, the terror of the road, all of it was channeled into this single overriding purpose: to get back. As she finally crested the last rise and saw the familiar cleft in the rocks that was their den, a soft, bird-like chirp reached her ears. It was the sound of her son, the bold one. It was the most beautiful sound in the world. She chirped back, a quiet confirmation that she had survived the foreign world, that she had come home. She slipped into the den, and 5 small, warm bodies swarmed her, their purrs a rumbling chorus of relief. She had no food to offer them, only her presence. For now, in the fragile safety of the den, it was enough. The hunt had failed, the night had been a terror, and the journey a nightmare, but she was alive, and so were they. As the sun reached its zenith, the mother cheetah finally closed her eyes, her exhausted body curled around the 5 tiny, fragile heartbeats that were her entire world. The savannah would demand its price again tomorrow, but for this one moment there was peace. As the light strengthens, casting long, cool shadows across the plains, the mother cheetah moves with fluid grace to a nearby vantage point. It is not a position of dominance, but of reconnaissance. Today it is a termite mound, its earthen ramparts hardened by the sun into a structure like concrete, lifting her just high enough to survey the surrounding sea of grass. Yesterday it was a kopje, a rocky outcrop of ancient granite that offered a panoramic view of her world. From this lookout, she becomes utterly still, a statue of coiled potential, her keen amber eyes shielded by the black tear marks that reduce the sun's glare, scan her world. She's not looking for a single animal, but for the disruption in the pattern, the telltale flicker of movement that signals prey, the unnatural stillness that signals a hidden predator. The land she surveys is not a territory in the conventional violent sense. It is a vast home range, an enormous and fluid expanse that can stretch over 800 square kilometers, an area she does not defend but merely inhabits, a ghost passing through lands owned by others. This concept of space is fundamentally different from that of her competitors. A male cheetah coalition or a lion pride will fiercely defend a smaller, resource-rich territory to monopolize access to mates and prey. Their boundaries are invisible fences, proclaimed with thunderous roars and pungent scent marks, a clear and brutal statement of ownership. The solitary female practices a different, more subtle strategy, the art of avoidance. Her immense home range is a map not of ownership but of risk and opportunity. It is a mental atlas plotted with the migratory routes of gazelle herds, the locations of seasonal waterholes, and most importantly, the core territories of her competitors. Her daily movements are a continuous and complex calculation, balancing the desperate need for food against the absolute imperative of avoiding deadly encounters with lions and hyenas. She is solitary by nature, a whisper on the landscape, and if she encounters another female, they will typically observe each other from a great distance before one veers away, a silent mutual acknowledgement of their shared need for space and solitude. The landscape is punctuated by landmarks that serve as a communal bulletin board, a network of silent communication. Certain prominent trees, often gnarled acacias or broad-topped marulas, are known as play trees. They are focal points, message boards for the cheetah community. As she passes one, a familiar sentinel on her route, she approaches with caution. The trunk is scarred with the claw marks of generations. She investigates it thoroughly, her nose twitching, deciphering a complex tapestry of scents. The stale smell of a male cheetah who passed a week ago, the fresher, sharper urine of a nomadic coalition that was here only last night, a scent that puts her on high alert, the faint trace of another female. This information is critical. It tells a detailed story: who has passed by, how recently, their gender and reproductive status, whether they are resident or nomad. She is reading the landscape, gathering the intelligence necessary to navigate a world defined by the presence of more powerful animals. She adds her own message, a spray of urine on the trunk, a quick update for those who follow. A female in need of food with cubs. Her use of this vast space is reactive, not proactive. She is not drawing lines for others to respect. She is reading the bold, aggressive lines drawn by lions, hyenas, and male cheetahs, and plotting a path of least resistance through their overlapping spheres of influence. Her territory is a fluid concept, a geography of avoidance that shifts with the seasons and the ever-present, bone-deep threat of danger. Today, the scent of lions is strong on the western breeze, carried from the riverine thickets. She turns east toward the open plains, her mind already calculating the position of a small herd of Thompson's gazelles she noted 2 days ago. The hunt has begun not with a chase, but with a decision born of fear and intelligence. The lives of her 5 cubs depend on it.
So, how does a solitary animal with no territory navigate a world full of enemies? She does it by reading the morning newspaper. That tree isn't just a landmark, it's an information hub, a complex story written in scent. She's not just smelling who was there, she's reading their status, their intentions, and how long ago they passed. It's a sophisticated intelligence network that allows her to survive by being smarter, not stronger.
But as she moves, a low, guttural whoop echoes from the direction she just abandoned. The hyenas are awake, and they are closer than she thought. Every muscle and sinew in her body was a loaded weapon, but the weapon was starving for fuel. The mother cheetah moves low, a ripple in the sea of grass. Her hunger is a physical presence, a hollow ache that sharpens her senses to an almost unbearable degree. The sun, still low, is a warm weight on her back. Her body, a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering, is a living machine singularly devoted to the physics of acceleration, yet it is a machine running on fumes. She feels the ghost of the energy her cubs have taken from her, the constant drain of milk production. Failure is not an option. Ahead, the Thompson's gazelle herd grazes, their tawny coats a near-perfect match for the dry grass. She isolates her target, a young female, slightly separated from the others, its attention focused on a particularly lush patch of clover. Her stalk begins. Every element of her anatomy is now engaged in the art of disappearance. Her spotted coat breaks up her outline, making her a phantom in the dappled light. Her spine, extraordinarily flexible, allows her to flatten her body until she is nearly level with the ground, coiling and preparing to uncoil like a massive spring. This spinal flexion is the secret to her explosive power, the engine that will allow for a massive stride length of over 7 meters in a single bound should the chase begin. Her long, muscular tail, which can be nearly as long as her body, rests still for now, but she is already anticipating its role as an active rudder, the counterbalance that will allow her to match the prey's desperate high-speed turns. To power this incredible athleticism, her respiratory system is on a hair trigger. Her enlarged nostrils flare, tasting the air, drawing in not just the scent of the gazelle, but the direction of the fickle morning breeze. Her enlarged heart and lungs are ready to work in concert, to draw in and process the vast amounts of oxygen needed to fuel the anaerobic inferno of the sprint. She freezes as the target gazelle lifts its head, its large dark eyes scanning the horizon. Her muscles scream to remain still. She is a statue of patient death. Her feet, unlike the soft, rounded pads of other cats, are hard and ridged, functioning like the tread on a tire. Her semi-retractable claws, always exposed, act like the spikes on a sprinter's shoe, ready to grip the earth for the superior traction needed for that first explosive push. The distance is now under 100 meters. The moment is approaching. The entire biological system, this perfect eliminating machine, is geared towards a single, breathtaking event that will likely last no more than 30 seconds. But she knows the profound cost. This is an all-or-nothing energetic gamble. The chase will generate immense metabolic heat capable of raising her core body temperature to a dangerous 40 degrees Celsius or more. Success or failure, she will be left completely exhausted, a panting, vulnerable creature in a landscape full of thieves. She takes one more slow, silent step, placing her paw with surgical precision. The gazelle's head is down again. The time to uncoil the spring has come. She explodes. The transition from absolute stillness to cataclysmic motion is so instantaneous it seems to break the laws of physics. The dry earth is thrown back in clumps as her spiked claws find purchase. In the first 2 seconds, she's already moving at over 60 kilometers per hour. For the young gazelle, the world narrows to a single terrifying reality, a tawny blur of focused death closing the distance with impossible speed. The herd scatters in a panic of drumming hooves and dust, but the mother cheetah's focus is absolute, her eyes locked onto the fleeing form of her chosen target. Her head remains uncannily level, her body a fluid wave of contracting and expanding muscle beneath it, a living embodiment of controlled violence. The gazelle, a creature born of 1,000,000 years of persecution, does not simply run. It engages in a desperate acrobatic dialogue with death. It jinks sharply to the right, a maneuver that would send any other pursuer tumbling. But the cheetah is prepared. Her long, heavy tail whips to the left, acting as a perfect counterbalance, a rudder that defies inertia and allows her to mirror the turn with breathtaking precision. Her flexible spine, the very engine of her speed, now becomes the key to her agility. The gazelle zigzags again, its movements erratic and unpredictable, designed to break the predator's rhythm. But the cheetah's mind is a supercomputer, calculating angles and trajectories in fractions of a second. She's not just reacting, she is anticipating. The sound of the chase is not a roar or a growl, but the percussive thunder of 8 feet hitting the plains in a syncopated rhythm of survival, punctuated by the mother's own ragged, rasping breaths. She is now in the anaerobic zone, her muscles screaming for an oxygen they cannot get. Her body is flooding with lactic acid. The heat building within her is immense, a furnace threatening to cook her from the inside out. She knows, with an instinct born of countless chases, that she has only seconds left before her own body betrays her, before hypothermia forces a shutdown. The gazelle feels the predator's presence just behind it, a hot breath of mortality on its flank. It makes one final desperate move, a sharp cutback combined with a leap over a low acacia shrub. For an infinitesimal moment, the cheetah miscalculates. The gazelle's leap is higher than she anticipated. She is forced to adjust mid-stride, a slight hesitation that costs her momentum. It is all the opening the gazelle needs. It lands with its legs already pumping, gaining a precious meter, then two. The cheetah pushes for one last surge of power, her great heart hammering against her ribs, but the fuel is gone. The machinery of speed, pushed beyond its limits, begins to fail. She can feel the power bleeding from her limbs. The distance between them, which had narrowed to a single body length, now opens up again. 5 meters, 10. The gazelle, its lungs burning but its life reclaimed, stretches its lead and melts back into the panicked confusion of the herd. The mother cheetah slows, her sprint dissolving into a trot, then a walk, and finally a complete, shuddering halt. She collapses onto the hot earth, her flanks heaving violently as she gasps for air. Her entire body trembles with the aftershock of the exertion. She has failed. The silence that descends is a heavy, damning judgment. The immense energetic price has been paid, but the transaction is void. The calories burned, the water lost, the risk taken, all for nothing. It is a devastating loss, far more than just a missed meal. It is a profound depletion of her finite reserves, a debt that will be added to the ever-present hunger of her cubs. She lies there for nearly half an hour, a magnificent engine of speed rendered utterly powerless, vulnerable to any passing threat. She does not see the hyena watching from a distant ridge, its intelligent eyes noting her position and her exhaustion. She only knows the hollow ache of failure and the gnawing, urgent knowledge that she must somehow find the strength to rise and do it all again. The sun climbs higher, indifferent. For her, the morning has been a catastrophe. But the world of the hunted is not one of passive waiting. It is a fortress of vigilance, and the alarm had just been raised. From the cheetah's vantage point, the young gazelle is a target, a solution to the gnawing hunger in her belly. But from within the herd, the world is perceived as a shimmering fabric of interconnected awareness. The gazelle's existence is one of collective vigilance, a life strategy built on the unassailable principle that many eyes, ears, and noses are better than one. A sudden breeze carrying a faint alien scent causes a dozen heads to lift in unison. It wasn't our mother cheetah's scent. She had been meticulous with the wind, but something else, a trace of jackal from the west that was enough to sow a seed of unease. The young female, the cheetah's chosen target, feels the shift in the herd's mood. Her own survival depends on a suite of adaptations just as specialized as the cheetah's. Her light frame and long, powerful legs are not merely for grazing, they are engines of agile, high-speed flight. Suddenly, an older male on the far side of the herd spots it, not a scent, but a flicker of unnatural movement, a twitch of an ear in the grass that does not belong. He gives a sharp, snorting alarm call. It is too late. The mother cheetah explodes from her cover. The world of the young gazelle dissolves into pure adrenalized instinct. As the cheetah closes the distance with impossible speed, the gazelle does not simply flee. It engages in a remarkable, desperate behavior. Stotting. It leaps high into the air, all 4 feet, leaving the ground simultaneously, its back arched and legs stiff. This is not panic. It is a calculated, honest signal born of 1,000,000 years of persecution. The gazelle is demonstrating its health, its vigor, its fitness to survive, a desperate plea to the predator. I see you. I am strong and fast. Chasing me will be a waste of your precious energy. Choose another. But the mother cheetah is committed. She has cubs. She cannot afford to be deterred. This dynamic between hunter and hunted becomes a co-evolutionary arms race playing out in real time. Her adaptations for a short, overwhelming chase are pitted against the gazelle's adaptations for explosive, agile escape. She closes the remaining distance, her paws thundering on the dry earth. The gazelle abandons its display and commits to flight, employing erratic zigzagging maneuvers or jinking to break the predator's line of attack. This is the ultimate test. Recent studies using high-tech collars have revealed the secret to the cheetah's success is not raw speed alone. In these final critical seconds, she actually decelerates, trading her astonishing top speed for the maneuverability needed to match the prey's sharp, life-saving turns. Her tail whips back and forth, a rudder against the forces of physics. The gazelle jinks left, she mirrors. It jinks right. She is already there, anticipating, calculating. She is now just a meter behind, her sharp dew claw extended, ready to trip the fleeing animal in a tactic requiring immense, breathtaking precision.
So what's the real secret to the cheetah's success in a chase? It's not about going faster, it's about knowing exactly when to slow down. Our data shows that in those final, critical seconds, she's hitting the brakes, using that incredible tail as a rudder to match the prey's jinks. It's a breathtaking duel of physics where agility ultimately trumps raw speed.
The chase ended in a cloud of dust and the silence of death, but on the savannah the silence is always listening. With a final, desperate burst of speed and a perfectly timed swipe of her forepaw that connects with a hind leg, the cheetah brings the gazelle down in a tumble of dust and limbs. The chase is over. The savannah holds its breath. She quickly clamps her jaws on the prey's throat, a quiet and efficient method that avoids the bellows and screams that would draw unnecessary attention. For a few moments, the only sounds are the frantic, muffled struggle of the gazelle and the mother's own ragged, rasping breaths. Then a profound quiet. But now, as the adrenaline recedes, her greatest challenge begins. She is utterly spent. Her body temperature is soaring, her lungs heaving as she gulps the air, struggling to repay the massive oxygen debt incurred by her muscles. Her vision swims slightly. She must eat quickly, consuming the 2.8 kilograms of meat she needs to replenish her energy reserves before the vultures and hyenas arrive. But the signs of a successful hunt, however subtle, are rarely missed. The brief, explosive panic of the gazelle herd, the sudden agitated flight of a flock of guinea fowl, and most damningly, the sight of a single lappet-faced vulture, a black speck spiraling down from the heavens, are all signals that a meal is on the ground. She tears at the soft underbelly of the carcass, bolting down strips of meat with a desperate urgency. She must get something in her stomach before making the long trek back to her cubs. But a shadow falls over her. It is not a cloud. She looks up. High above, the single vulture has been joined by 5, then 10, their numbers growing exponentially as they descend in a tightening gyre. Then she hears it, not a roar, not a growl, but something far more chilling on the open plains, a low, resonant whoop-whoop that seems to come from all directions at once. It is answered by a cackling, unhinged laugh. The cheetah freezes, meat still in her mouth. She is built for speed, not for combat. She is a non-confrontational animal by necessity. An injury that impairs her ability to run, even a minor one, is a death sentence. Out of the tall grass, a spotted hyena emerges, its powerful shoulders hunched, its head low. Then another appears to its left. They are not running, they are walking with a confident, rolling gait, the gait of proprietors coming to claim their property. Faced with these dominant competitors, she knows she has no choice. She will not fight to defend her prize. The law of the savannah is absolute. Might makes right. The larger of the two hyenas lets out another laugh, a sound of pure, arrogant mirth. It takes a step closer. With a final frustrated hiss that is more air than sound, the mother cheetah backs away, abandoning her hard-won meal. The energy spent, the risk taken, the heat endured, all for nothing. The energy spent, the risk taken, the heat endured, all for nothing. She retreats, not with the panic of prey, but with the weary resignation of the perpetually dispossessed. She puts a safe distance between herself and the cackling thieves, then turns to watch as they fall upon the carcass, their powerful bone-crushing jaws making short work of her efforts. The sound of splintering bone carries on the wind, a final, brutal insult. Her hunger is now a cold, hard knot in her belly, but it is overshadowed by a more profound and constant pressure. The ceaseless, energy-sapping weight of fear. Her world is not simply a physical space of grass, trees and waterholes. It is a landscape of fear, a mental and emotional map overlaid upon the physical one. Every feature of the terrain is assessed not just for its resources, but for its associated risk. The dense riverine thickets to the west are prime hunting grounds for leopards and hold the scent of lions. She avoids them unless driven by absolute desperation. The open plains offer the best chance to use her speed, but they also offer no cover from the eyes of competitors or the circling vultures that act as their spies. The rocky kopjes are good for vantage points and den sites, but they are also magnets for baboon troops and prowling leopards. Her daily movements are a complex, high-stakes calculus, a continuous negotiation between the pull of potential food and the push of potential death. This psychological pressure has a tangible physiological cost. The constant vigilance, the background hum of anxiety, floods her system with stress hormones like cortisol. Over time, this chronic stress can weaken her immune system and inhibit her ability to recover from the immense physical exertion of a hunt. It is a tax levied on every moment of her existence, a debt incurred simply by living as a subordinate predator in a world of giants. She is not merely avoiding lions and hyenas in the present moment, she is navigating the ghosts of past encounters and the imagined threat of future ones. A particular grove of acacia trees where she lost a kill 2 seasons ago is now a permanent red zone on her mental map. The memory of the scent of lion on a particular breeze will cause her to alter her path for days. This strategy of avoidance is her greatest strength and her most profound vulnerability. It allows her to survive in a world where she is outmatched and outmuscled, but it also means she is often pushed to the margins, forced to hunt in less productive areas or at less optimal times. It explains her vast home range. She requires an enormous area, not because she needs that much land to find food, but because she needs that much space to find safe passage between the fiercely defended territories of her competitors. She is a ghost, living in the spaces left behind, a creature whose survival depends on being overlooked. She moves away from the scene of her loss, her head low, The sun is beginning its descent, painting the clouds in shades of bruised purple and blood orange. The cooler air of evening will bring the lions out to hunt. She must keep moving, putting as much distance as possible between her and the sounds of their nightly rain. Her path is not random. She follows a barely perceptible game trail that skirts the edge of a vast open plain, keeping a line of scrubby bush to her left as potential cover. She is tired, her muscles ache, and her spirit is low, but she is a mother. The image of 5 small, helpless bodies huddled in a rocky crevice is a force more powerful than any fatigue. The landscape of fear is terrifying, but the fear of failing them is the one thing that is infinitely worse. It is this fear, the primal engine of maternity, that forces her weary legs forward into the gathering dusk.
So what is the single greatest threat to a cheetah? It's not a lion or a hyena, it's a line on a map. Fences, roads, settlements, they are fragmenting the vast open landscape she needs to enact her strategy of avoidance. She is an animal built for immense space, and we are creating a world of corridors and cul-de-sacs. The race she is losing isn't against a gazelle, it's against the edges of her world.